and we know you're painting today, and we want to make sure that answer your phone, bro. And I was like, okay, what happened? And they're like, just pack up your things because we don't know if like
Yeah.
what's going on, if they're
Right,
targeting muralists or. And I was like, okay. And I was like, no, we're good. And then
Yeah.
I remember getting like an eerie feeling. It was just like, no, let me just pack up for the day and go find out
Yeah.
what's going on, what's what.
Give me the paint, give me the chalk, give me the urban artist talk. Conversations from the heart, from the start we set apart. Art a la carte, now check it.
Hey, beautiful art community. Thank you for watching another episode. Be sure to subscribe to Urban Artist Talk. Your subscription will help us to bring on more guests and make sure that we fund this whole project. So thank you for watching another episode, and we look forward to your support.
Welcome back to another episode of Urban Artist Talk. I'm your host, Andre Jamora, and we're doing it. We got another amazing guest today. I have been a fan of this artist. Oh, man. I won't even say the amount of years, but if you live in Oakland, if you live in the Bay Area, you've definitely seen their artwork. If you've been to the Oakland Roots Soccer Stadium, you've definitely seen their work. I have the pleasure of talking today with none other than Mr. David Burke. How are you?
I'm great. It's great to be here.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, first time to the BAMP mothership.
Oh, man.
And I was just thinking, driving over, like, we've known each other for a while, but we haven't had coffee, tea, a cocktail, anything. So we have not had a chance to do this. So I'm really excited just to dig in. And
just to ground the energy and just like really converse. Yeah, man.
So like this is fresh.
This is fresh.
It's
no,
good.
I'm super excited. There's so much that we got to talk about. We already kind of like got the ball rolling, talking about parenting and projects. Ooh, man, where do we start? I am just a big fan, and I guess I'll kind of start with maybe one of our first formal engagements, and that was the Oakland Artist Gayla. So, you know, I've known of your work before, and that's why when we did the Oakland Artist Gayla, for those that don't know, 2022, we did the Oakland Artist Gayla where, you know, the Bay Area Mural Program had decided that Oakland and the Bay had so many amazing artists that we wanted to really just give them their flowers in real time. So we had put together the gala. Plus, as artists, we don't get the chance to like just really dress up and put on our, you know, finest gear. We're always in paint clothes. And we wanted to take that time to acknowledge like 8 art organizations and individuals, and you were one of them. And I have to say that you made that list just because of the amazing work that you do. Not only was I a personal fan, but I was just kind of like, if we're honoring anybody who's been putting in that work here in Oakland, here in the Bay, for countless amount of years, we got to put David up there.
You know, when I got that email from you about that, I was like, oh, is this real? Like, what is it? What?
They don't do this here in Oakland?
And I think, like, reflecting on that experience, because, like, when you're doing this work, you do it for a long time, like, sometimes you're like, is anyone seeing this? Sometimes you paint something, and you're like, all right, that felt good to me, but did anyone see it?
Yeah.
And it felt so amazing to be like, oh, they see me.
Yeah.
They see it. And I think, you know, I think we'll get into this a little bit, but like acknowledging each other, celebrating each other, and lifting each other up is so powerful. And like that moment meant so much to be with Sorrel and Rifa and all the other folks that you were honoring. That was like really a big deal.
Oh, man.
Thank you.
Yeah, man.
Yeah,
definitely. Definitely.
Yeah.
And we were talking about it briefly, but, you know, just even feeling like doing public art here in the Bay Area in Oakland for the past 10 years personally, I still feel like a newcomer to the game. So even as, you know, people acknowledge BAMP and the work that we do, I want to make sure, and, you know, even all the younger artists that we're working, I'm like, okay, well, we have to acknowledge people that have had skin in the game for way longer than we have. And I feel like that was a moment to really do that. honor one another. And even with living here in the Bay for 15 plus years, it's one of those places where I really love the connectivity of the community, to where, you know, we work with Sorrel, but then we're also, you know, applying for some of the same grants and some same projects as other artists and organizations, but still excited when, you know, they get the project or even might even work with them when they, so I just love Oakland for that. I love the Bay for that.
It's special.
Yeah.
It's a special place. Yeah. And it's funny when you say you've been here for 10 years, feels like you've done like 20 years of work in those 10 years. So it's,
man, we work fast. You know,
Yeah.
time to make up, you know, definitely. And with a
Yeah.
great team,
yeah.
you know, you can, you know, get great work done. So shout out to, you know, all the BAM team members that have put
Yeah.
in time. Yeah, man. So, you know, just speaking about it, we kind of touched upon the surface, but when you got into public art, what, man, there's so many angles, because you not only do public art, you teach, you know, like you run the whole gamut within the art world. What really made you decide to like get into public art per se? Not even just as an artist, but public art.
Okay, so I didn't know this at the time,
Mm-hmm.
but there were some seeds that were planted for me really young.
Okay.
And the first seed, 1983, I grew up in Alameda.
Uh-huh.
So when I was playing basketball with my friends, I break my wrist.
Oh.
And so we hop into the Volkswagen station, you know, the Volkswagen station wagon. My mom's driving me to Kaiser
Uh-huh.
over here in Oakland on Broadway. And we get off at 580 and we're coming around, and boom, there's this giraffe on the pillar underneath the freeway in Oakland. And I'm like, my wrist is all busted. I'm crying. And I see this giraffe. I'm like, oh my God, what is that? What's this giraffe doing? So I was 8.
Yeah.
And for a split second, I forgot that my wrist was all busted up. And I was like, oh, wow. And there was something really magical and powerful about that experience. But again, that was a seed.
Yeah.
Right. Another seed was the grand performance painted by Danielle Galvez. So Dan Fontes painted the giraffe. Shout out to Dan Fontes.
Those giraffes are amazing. And I didn't realize 1983. They've been around since 83.
83.
He did all of the giraffes, because there's a few of them.
There are 83, 84.
Yeah.
And the zebras.
Yeah. There's a bunch of them. Yeah.
And so that was the first one. Second one was Danielle Galvez's grand performance underneath 580 near the lake. And
oh yeah. With the with the muralist in the sky painting and
the artist and the piano.
Yes.
And the dancers. And I remember seeing that. I remember having like dreams about that piece when I was young. And it was like there's something about the scale and just again, there's that magic, right?
Yeah.
And so and those pieces really stuck with me. There was something about those pieces, you know, so it's like you grow up and you do other things, play sports, do the thing. But I sort of like those were really early impressions.
Yeah.
And so I think as I started getting into art, this was sort of like late high school, college, starting to say, oh, this is like there was this gravitational pull towards creating and painting. And those early impressions, I think, were really stuck with me and were part of what kind of steered me in that direction.
Totally makes sense, man.
Yeah.
And they're still, for those that don't know, they're still here today.
They're still
what
here.
Is that, 30 plus years later?
It's amazing.
Oh.
And and over the years, I've had a chance to meet both of them and just thank them.
Yeah.
But I think, fast forward all these years later, like 40 years later, for me, it's like I'm painting for that 8-year-old.
Full circle.
And that magic, that wonder, that awe that's my target audience.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I try, just keep coming back to that. And I think also like the thing about those giraffes for me that were like the scale, but then the singularity. It's just like boom, simple.
Yeah.
So like that also has kind of influenced my style.
Yeah. No, man. And I know David Burke's piece when I see it, especially if it has a flower or two in it. So your style has definitely spoke volumes. You can tell that you are one that has honed in on your craft and really like taken the time to master it. When you got into this public art, especially at that young age, I'm sure you couldn't have even fathomed what it took to get paintings done at that scale. We were just, oh, go ahead.
Yeah, no, that scale is everything, right?
Scale is everything.
And like, I think, in college, you're making big pieces. You have professors that are like, oh, you got to go big. So you're like, okay, I'm going to go like 8 feet by 8 feet, right? And that felt huge.
It's bigger than you.
Yeah. And so like, all right, that's big. And then, but that first wall you step up to and you like, it just swallows you. Oh, whoa, this is something else. And so, yeah, the scales and like how you move on the wall, the physicality of it, and yeah, all of it. It's just, I love it. Yeah.
Man, do you ever get intimidated by a wall now that you've been doing? Do you ever step to a wall and just feel like, oh, do I still got it? Do I know what I'm doing?
Well, that last, the roots piece that you alluded to in the intro, down the street on MLK and 39th, that was our tallest wall. And that was like, we've done like 40 feet. It's like, okay. That was like pushing it. Yeah. This one was 65. And so we go 40 and like Poncho and I are, you're in the boom lift and Poncho's like, go slow. And so we go up and then you chill for a minute. You're like, okay, how you doing? We go up a little bit more. And then you can feel when the lift, when it's getting to like its max and like every movement, you're just like, you're feeling it. And so you have to like, when you're with someone else, you definitely have to be like in sync with one another.
Oh, man.
And I heard you and Darius talking about that, like that. You have to be in sync.
Yeah,
because
man.
if you're at the controls and he thinks you're going one way and you go the other, your stomach just drops. And so yeah, no, it's good to push those limits a little bit. But that was my max.
65.
Like, all right, 65. Cool.
Yeah, man, it's a whole different atmosphere up there, and it's like you really have to like get up there and, for lack of a better word, like just kind of like ground yourself or be present in midair with nothing under your feet and still get work done.
And I think that presence, that like, you have to be, it's like, yeah, you're trying to paint, but you're keeping your balance.
Yeah.
And you have to know where your water is or your brushes or your cans and everything, and so like you have to be 100% present.
Yeah.
And the minute you space out, that's where something can go sideways. So, but
that's what I call it a wrap. When I start to space out, I'm like, okay,
no, it's time.
Yeah.
It's time. Like when you start, you get,
because you can't afford any mess ups at that height.
No.
Even on the wall or even to yourself.
And you're like trying to paint at a high level while paying attention to all these things. And, and it's like whether you're on scaffolding, a boom lift or whatever, it's like you're keeping all these things in account. Plus, like you're trying to paint. Yeah. It's hard enough to just stand on the ground and make a painting.
Yeah.
So but I love that like, all your senses are heightened.
Yeah.
Everything's just like, your spidey senses are like, poof,
oh man,
right?
I can hear somebody walking down the street on the sidewalk from like half a block away.
Yeah.
All of that.
So it really, I love that feeling.
Yeah.
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 It's amazing. So when you got into public art, did you ever think that you were going to need to be involved with so much gear? So much. Do you like that aspect of it, or was that a shock when you had to get the boom lifts and the harnesses and the hard hats and the
I mean, I remember, the first time you do it, you're like, okay, well,
yeah.
like, how does this thing work? How do I, and the funny thing is, like, how each lift is different, and you're like, wait, I thought I knew how to work this thing. And Poncho and I, every time
I
we
go
get
through
one,
it every time.
we're like, it takes us 10 minutes. We're like, how do we turn this on?
It's like, I know I've used this machine before, but it has just a different button, a different little rabbit. The rabbit is faded, or the turtle's gone.
Where's the turtle? Keep me in turtle mode.
Yes. Unless I got to drive this thing. I don't know if you heard me or somebody had broke our lockbox. We had paint stored in a lockbox over in SF.
What's going on, good people? Andre Jamora here, and as the executive director of the Bay Area Mural Program, I want to tell you about Chroma Paint. Chroma is our go-to brand, and we want to make sure it's your go-to brand too. Visit them at their website at chromaonline.com.
And somebody drove the lock. First, they tried with screwdriver, hammer, and everything to break into the lockbox like there was gold in this thing.
Right.
Right? And we're like,
You'd
damn,
be really disappointed.
We found our lockbox half a block down the street. So they had dragged this thing, and I guess halfway down the street as they were dragging it, paint started pouring out of it, and they realized, oh, it's only paint in here, or whatever was in here is now destroyed if they wanted the tools, if they thought there wasn't even any tools in there. But we had to end up using the lift to like drive down to go get this lockbox. And that was like one of the only times we put it in the rabbit
mode.
We're like, all right, we got, Granny passing us, with her stroller, and we're like, all right, we gotta speed this thing up a little bit.
Good.
Yeah, man. So it's just always an adventure. But did you ever think that you were gonna have to really just, acquire so much gear? I have so much gear behind this wall.
The gear is no joke.
Yeah. I think we were talking about steel toe boots.
Oh man.
Steel toe boots have come a long way.
Absolutely.
Now they got steel-toed sneakers.
Yeah.
So this is what I'm wearing because I'm all about comfort. But yeah, it's just so funny and amazing. I found out even as I got older, like Home Depot became my Toys R Us.
Oh yeah.
And I got excited when I'd get to Home Depot, and I'm like, ooh, tools, stuff I can craft and build with.
This Graco paint sprayer.
Yeah. Yes. Oh man, I got a few of them.
Yeah.
Because they come in different sizes with different.
Yeah.
So it's like big boy toys.
Yeah. No, it's funny because how there's like the entry level Graco sprayer.
Yeah.
So I've had like that one for like 10 years, and we've been running that thing into the ground, right? And just doing projects that we had no business. Like that thing's for like interior. It's like small projects, and we're just like, no, we got this.
Yeah.
And then we got like the next level up recently. It's like, oh, what's this?
What?
This is amazing.
I've been doing this.
What
have we been doing? Oh my God.
So geeking out on the gear is fun.
But I feel like, and no matter what the craft is, even if you're, canvas painting, and I'm sure people have different opinions about this. I would love to hear yours. I personally, as an artist, come from the school of you should be able to train with bad equipment so that when you do get good equipment or good brushes, that you appreciate them, how to, what's your take on, how you start off, and should you start at the top with good brushes? And
well, I think this goes like some gear heads in general. And there are some people that are all about the gear. It doesn't matter what it's like. It could be art, sports, photography, everything, right? And like I grew up playing sports, playing baseball, and I always had like kind of like a busted glove and a bat that was like 3 or 4 years old.
Yeah.
That's broken in. And I was like, oh, this is just like, these are my tools.
Yeah.
Right? And I don't know. I think that like quality brushes are important.
Yes.
And things like that. But especially mural painting, where you end up in places, neighborhoods, countries where you've never been, and your resources are limited. You've got to be able to do it with whatever you have at hand. And so you've got still to this day, like those 250 chip brushes from Home Depot. Give me a few of those.
Give me
Let's
a few
go.
of those to start off with. Yeah.
They used to be like 50 cents. Now they're like $3.
Man, everything's going up. I'm sorry. I got to close this back door because there's this trash back here.
How's it sounding? We good?
It sounds good.
All right.
Make sure to project your voice a little bit more.
Okay.
You're not doing bad.
All right. I'll work on it. Yeah.
I brought your volume up a little bit.
Okay. Okay.
Because you do a lot of work. Yeah, you know.
And I know. I'll work on it.
You're not peaking at all.
Got it. All right.
I'm gonna pull him. Evoke some emotion,
All
get
right.
some anger out of him.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
You're doing great.
All right.
Yeah. All right. Oh, what was
We're talking about gear and brush and just like the tools, right? And I mean, I have some brushes, and this is one of like working with young people and students. I'm like, take care of your brushes. Sorry, I'm like, I can go on like
I dog brushes. No, you're talking to me right now. You're talking to me.
And like, I've got some brushes that have been to Thailand, that have been to Laos, that have been all over, and like 10, 15 years strong.
Yeah.
And they've got this history, and they still have their purpose. They're worn down to a nub, but I still know like how to use them and when I can, and like if you take care of them,
They'll serve you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they've got that history.
I've gotten better.
Do you beat them up?
I was a brush beater, man.
That's like Poncho.
Oh.
Shout out to Poncho Pescador.
Oh, man. We were just talking about that guy. That guy is... So when I came to Oakland, I saw Poncho's work everywhere. Probably one of the most prolific artists here in the Bay Area. I mean, you turn your head and he's got a fence, a wall, a collaboration somewhere in your neighborhood. And we were just talking about the joy of like painting. And when you think of the joy of painting,
that guy.
Tell us a story about a Poncho, and I've only painted with him once or twice.
Okay, so I'm gonna go back.
Let's go back
because, and then I'm gonna get to Poncho.
Okay, all right.
We're sitting here. We're on San Pablo, right by 580.
Yeah.
And as I was walking up to the BAMP headquarters, I look across the street, and it's the first Oakland Superheroes mural underneath 580. That painted, I think it was 2012.
Wow.
Maybe 11, 12.
Okay.
And I just had like all these flashbacks. And that was, I'd done murals. I'd been doing murals before that. I did painted murals in LA for about 4 years, and I was kind of bouncing around, and done some small projects in Oakland. But that was my first big large scale community project. I connected with Amana Harris.
Yep, AHC.
Attitudinal Healing Connection, Artist Team. And when we met, she had this vision to do this series of murals, and it's called the Hoover Corridor here. Yeah. And she wanted to do 5 murals and work with young people to tell their stories. And she had this whole curriculum, this superheroes curriculum, about having young people reimagine the idea of what a superhero is, and like a community superhero. So they write stories, they make drawings, we have workshops. And through that process, we generate all these amazing ideas, and then the artists take all of that material and translate them into these murals, these series of 4 murals that have been going on since 2012. And we have one more in kind of percolating. That'll be the last one, number 5.
Okay. It hasn't been done yet.
Hasn't been done yet.
Designed yet?
So we designed it during the pandemic.
Wow.
Poncho was the lead artist. I was kind of the art director and things. And so we've been sitting on this one. Wow. And we're just kind of like waiting for the right time.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so good. So many things to talk about. We'll talk about Poncho.
Yeah.
But we also got to just talk. We'll come back to, remind me, that, yes, people don't realize how long you have to sit on a good
Yes.
thing before it actually manifests sometimes.
And that patience, we can hit on this for a minute, but like things don't happen, life doesn't happen on your timeline.
No.
And this applies to so many pieces of life, but art in particular, public art, it's slow. You have to be patient.
Yeah.
And, once in a while you get a project that happens within a few weeks, but that's rare. I mean, you've got 5, 6 months, years. I mean, we're going on 4 years now with this.
I learned the hard way.
And you just have to like take a deep breath.
Mhm.
Be like, okay, it'll come.
Or I won't say the
Right.
hard way, but when you're young and ambitious, you don't really know all the behind the scenes. So
Sure.
we talked about that. We'll revisit Philadelphia,
Yeah,
but I got
yeah.
my start at Philadelphia Mural
Yeah.
Arts program. And I was just that young. I want to get on a big wall. And they're like,
Yeah.
oh, they're there. Just take your time. Work with the kids first. I'm like, love kids.
Yeah.
Work with the kids.
They're
3
great.
years working with the big picture program. I'm like, I'm ready for the big wall. They're like, they're there. Not yet. I'm like, okay, all right. Well, let me just. So I started doing my own, finding my own commissions, which
Yeah.
nobody's going to give you your first big wall. You kind of have to go and like either take it or like really just like insert yourself in the
Sure.
right place for somebody to believe in you.
Absolutely.
So, did a few little commission projects, then finally got my first big project with the Mural Arts program. Thought I was big shit and was just like, okay, now I'm ready. And they were like, whoa, this is a slow. I'm like, oh no, it's supposed to keep coming, right?
Well, you think once you've done that first big one, you're like, oh, okay.
I'm in.
So now there's like the balloons and the red carpet is gonna roll out, and I'm like, I've made it.
I made it, right?
And like all these opportunities will start coming.
Now
And
you
then
still got to
look
go
around
tap
and you're
dance.
like, wait, what?
Nobody's calling me. Why is my only 5 likes?
Nope.
What?
Nope. Nope.
And so fast forward, moved here to the Bay. I teamed up and went over to Attitudinal Healing
Yeah.
Commission. First off the bat, I loved the work that Amana was doing and was just like, I want to be a muralist with you guys. And they were like, we do a mural a year. I was like, oh, what do you mean?
Just one?
Just one? And they're like, yeah, we fundraise.
You're
we
like,
work
I'm
with the
coming
students.
from Philly, where it's like,
I'm like, come on, we got to at least do like 10.
Yeah.
And they're like, no, that's not how this works. I'm like, okay, so call me when you're doing that one. I'll definitely show up.
yeah.
I'm gonna, long story short, come over here and form BAMP and try to see if we can do like 100 in a year. Formed BAMP, and it was just kind of like, okay, we'll design that here, and then can you design that for 3 years from now? I'm like, well, okay. So I had to learn that we had to stack projects, had to keep people busy by like, getting a few projects that would overlap because you never know when they were going to start.
Yeah.
Then ended up still doing the Attitudinal Healing connection with James Gales.
Did you do the ground, the one on the
DJ
street
Agana
piece?
did the street piece. Me and James Gales was the original designer for the wall, but I ended up painting his concept with the people.
James Gales, the legend.
Another legend.
Another legend.
Oh man, so good. So many things. James is definitely, amazing to work with. His watercolor is like, I'm scared of watercolor. How are you with watercolor?
So I had a really amazing high school art teacher who was a master of watercolor.
I'm afraid of it.
And she tried to teach me, but I couldn't.
I need more control. I'm not a controlling person, but the water just runs. I'm like, oh, no, stay on the line.
Yeah, you got to embrace.
You got to embrace the run.
Yeah.
I haven't embraced the run yet.
Yeah.
I need
coming.
like
it's coming.
My straight hard edge illustrative lines.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But so, going back to this piece, and like I was actually yesterday, I was over on West Street, just touching up, because these walls over time, they take a beating. They like whatever the thing is.
They lived for so long without any, and that's what I was gonna say even earlier. This wall right here gets so much respect.
It's amazing.
Are you an artist struggling to sell your artwork? I know the feeling. I've been there, so much so that I decided to publish a book, The Art of Articulation. This book will help you not only navigate the art world, but give you the vocabulary to step into a room with confidence so you can sell your artwork. Pick up this book on Amazon today.
It's
because you see the side of
right
this,
around the corner.
I mean,
Yeah.
slap that. I mean, there'll be a
Yeah.
tag every day. Like, I
Yeah.
don't care how often they buff this wall.
Yeah.
That's just new canvas. And this wall right here gets just obliterated
Yeah.
with tags. But your mural underneath is like a beacon of hope. Even the
And
way the
it's-
light hits. I don't know if y'all did that in
Oh,
purpose.
for
Of course you did.
Absolutely.
The light hits in between the highway where the sun is above this lake. And if you catch it, I forget what time of day it is.
It's like late afternoon.
Oh,
Yeah.
if you
Like
catch it at the right
5,
time, it hits the
4:35.
sun and the portal to the whole of Oakland just opens up for you.
Yeah.
And everything makes sense.
Yeah. 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 No, and I was out on West Street touching that up, and I was just like looking at all the names on these walls and all of the artists that I had an opportunity to connect with. And I mean, it's like, and I'm like, wow. It's like you've got Javier Rocabado, you've got Lindsay Milliken, you've got Rifa One,
Man.
Fred Alvarado, James Shields.
Right. You've
like
worked with
Pablo Christie, who's teaches.
who was the
over-
young boy that got rest in peace that passed?
Antonio Ramos.
Did you work on that piece with him?
So so wonderful, like, man.
I got goosebumps as I thought about it. I couldn't not mention his name though.
So he, on this first one, right across the street,
Yeah.
we had kind of like Aaron De La Cruz was
Mhm.
the art director on that piece, and I was the lead artist, and he brought me in, and then we built a team. And it's just like it was a big team too. It was like probably 12 artists, and
Which is not easy.
not easy. And like that's a production. You
It
got to
is.
just kind of take care of all the folks. And one day, this kid rolls up. He's like, "What are you guys doing?" On a skateboard, and we're like, "Oh, we're painting." He's like, "Can I get in on this?" And like that happens a lot. And you're like, well, like,
Let me see your portfolio.
yeah. But he was just like, no. And like it was early on, so we're like, okay. And he just started like painting background stuff, and then showed up the next day, and the next day, and like his enthusiasm and his passion and the joy, and by the end we're like, you're on the team. And we were, like we brought him on as assistant and paid him, and so yes, like he was part of that first Superheroes mural.
You can feel it, man.
And
The streets feel it.
Absolutely. And when he died on, that was number 3. That was in September 29th, 2015.
I was working on a mural around the corner.
So we were on West Street.
Yep.
Across from where I was working yesterday. And so I got just yesterday just reflecting on that and him.
Mm-hmm.
And the impact that had on our community, and so many things, like just thinking about, talking about being muralist and how vulnerable we are on the streets, and how there's sort of this like unspoken agreement with the community to just take care of us, because
I got my back to you the whole time.
Your back is to the wall. You're locked in, and you can't. It's hard to like. You can't really see what's going on around you, and you learn over time how to be aware and present. So, yeah, everyone in the community and everyone involved in that project have changed our lives forever, and after that happened, as a team, we came together. We, had to decide how we were going to proceed. And so we decided together that we were going to go back out that next week and complete this mural and honor him. And it was so overwhelming in terms of just being back in that space, the media attention that it brought, was uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
And, there was a vigil and all. So, um, and being back there just yesterday, reflecting on that, I think in the aftermath of that, for me, like, I had to make a decision about how I wanted to move through the world as an artist after that. And I decided that if I'm going to keep doing this work, that I have to bring the same love and passion and drive that Antonio brought every day to the wall. And I have to show up like that. And if I'm not going to do that, then I need to choose a different path. And so I carry that with me every day. Every time I show up to a wall, that's how I can honor him, his memory, his legacy. And I remember thinking on that project specifically, I was like, he's one of the next ones coming up. And if he was still here today, he'd be sitting on this couch with you. And so it's, I don't know, there were a lot of us that, we carry that with us.
Yeah,
and, James Shields was on that project, Creative Shields, Lindsay Milliken, Kina Romano, so many, Agana, so all of us were really touched, and, Poncho was on that project. So, yeah, I mean, that's something that each one of us that was a part of that process, we're carrying his memory and his legacy with us. Yeah.
You have to. I mean, because it was crazy. I was painting on San Pablo and Market, where we have the Black Liberation Walking Tour mural right now.
Yeah.
Back then, it was like, some characters, me and Rifa, Kiss My Black Arts, we did that whole wall. But I remember I was up there painting by myself that day, and my phone just kept buzzing. And, when you're up on a scaffolding and, got two brushes in your hand, you're not really trying to answer the phone. But I just kept getting call after call after call. And I'm like, okay, let me see what's going on.
Yeah.
And people are like, answer your phone.
Yeah.
And I forget what the social media was at the time, but they're like, everybody, we heard a muralist just, passed away in West Oakland, and we know you're painting today, and we want to make sure that answer your phone, bro. And I was like, okay, what happened? And they're like, just pack up your things, because we don't know if what's going on, if they're targeting muralists, or. And I was like, okay. And I was like, no, we're good. And then I remember getting like an eerie feeling. It was just like, no, let me just pack up for the day and go find out what's going on, what's what.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. But I remember that was my direct, because I didn't know Antonio.
Right.
I read about him afterwards, but that piece, every time I pass it, I can't not think about him, the interaction, the work that you guys have put in under these freeways.
And the stories behind these murals.
Yeah.
Because, as the public and the community, you see the finished product, but behind those images, there are whole books and stories and behind these images, behind the making of these, how they come to be. And for me, like, that's what makes them so rich. Yeah. And those are the roots of each one of these projects. And every project has its backstory, and I remember a few days after he died, we had like a public vigil in the space. We closed off the street, and it was a circus. It was media.
I remember.
It was super uncomfortable.
I drove by, but I didn't want to stop because it was just.
And it was too much in a way. And I saw, Danielle Galvez and Dan Fontes showed up, and I'd never met them. And I saw them, and I just went up and I gave Dan a hug, and I just started crying. And I was just like, I do this because of you guys.
Man.
And it was just like, and it was like that lineage, of artists doing this kind of work. And
don't make me cry, man. You're gonna make me tear up,
man.
Bro. Because
it's
like the connection of artists and to the community. And when
Yes.
they, yeah, man, there's something that's just so, and I know it's humanity in
It's
general,
sure.
but when you know artists that have given the majority of their life
Hmm.
to beautifying the community, to pouring out their souls on these walls. Yeah,
Yeah,
man.
and we got math here. I mean, it's and young, passing way too young.
Yeah.
And so like that. So, and we carry them with us
Yeah, man.
in that connection. And, and I think, we're getting to the age now where it's like, all right, it's time for us to start paving the way for the next.
That's it, man.
And that's
Yeah.
like the beauty, I think, of what BAMP does. And what I love so much about you is you're paving that way. And you're putting young artists in a position to learn the craft and learn all the parts in an like and guiding them, because there's a history and there's a process, and it's not just about getting a wall and getting up.
Yeah.
There's so much more to it.
Yeah.
And so I think that that's really an important part of our role as we get older,
It is, man.
is to start just
just
sharing that knowledge.
because there's so many stories, right? I mean,
Yeah.
like, even if people weren't even to watch us paint, even if they were just to like hear some of these stories, there's so much inspiration,
Yeah.
just within the amount of people that you've even worked with. I mean, like, you're a phenomenal artist yourself, but like even just that roll call, and I'm sure that's just the tip of the iceberg.
It's amazing. And I just
and that's the joy.
It's the joy. And and I've done a couple projects by myself just to see what that feels like and tastes like. And it's cool, but there's something about that collaboration and like finding your people, right?
Oh, man.
And so through this process, I mean, I worked with so many amazing artists, Agana, Kina Romano, like just Dave Young Kim.
Oh, yeah.
And Journey, Lady Mags were on this first one. Like just really, it really, and that was sort of like getting to know all these artists and work with them.
Wow.
And Poncho Pescador was one.
Man.
And that's, I first met him. And then also on this last one on West Street, led by Lindsay Milliken, Jovic Yabon was on that project.
Wow.
And we brought him on.
Man.
And, like the thing about working in the Bay is like there are so many amazing artists.
So many artists, so many cities.
So many, but so much talent.
Yeah.
And so it's like, okay, but then it's about like finding your people.
Yeah.
And like, talking about Poncho, and I was just like, when I first met him, and he would just show up just like sunshine, right? And just ready to go. And he's like, I don't care what I paint, just tell me what to do.
Yeah.
Let's go. And I was like, oh, that's
the attitude, man.
That, and so that kind of was the beginning of us starting to kind of work together. And then similarly with Jovic, Jovic's different. That guy, they're both so talented in different ways. And Jovic he can just do it. Like there are some people who are just born to paint.
Yeah.
I don't think I'm one of them. I think I have to like struggle through it, and like it's
a beautiful struggle.
But but this guy is just, they're just gifted.
Does he do a lot of the portraits?
He does a lot of the portraits.
Yeah, for the love letters
and he just he's very methodical, and he'll look at his watch, he'll go up for like 45 minutes, come down, and like gives himself like,
I love that.
It's and like I've learned so much by watching those two guys paint. And I think finding your band, like I think a lot about music and art and creating and like it, and like finding those people that
synchronicity,
and like individually you're talented, but together you
rock.
Just create something even more amazing and lift each other up and compliment each other. And
it is like putting together a band. You're absolutely right. It's got to, like not everybody can play the guitar. Not everybody can be lead singer.
And you don't have to be like, I think some people may disagree with this, but you don't have to be good at everything.
No.
Like you don't have to master everything. You can have the things that you do, and then you can find other people to come alongside you. And like for me, like that, like I realized this probably in my 30s is like, okay, like I like painting portraits, I can do it, but it takes me forever. It's super stressful because
it's got to look like this person.
And it's like, no, like you can let that part go. Like you have these other gifts, you can do these other things and see, and so that part of like letting things go, and it doesn't mean you're not still trying to grow and evolve, but it's, and so that piece, and Poncho is like really improvisational, and like he brings like the jazz and the funk and all of that into it, and like that, and those conversations, and then it's a conversation on the wall. You just go,
man. So even as far as the bands, and I know it's, we use it in loose terms, I've always wondered, and I have my, suspicion, but the name Hungry Ghost.
Okay.
Where does Hungry Ghost come from?
Okay, so this also goes back to, so I'm going to take it back a little bit.
Let's go back.
I'm going to go back to Philly, which we both have.
Yeah.
An affinity for and a history with. And
old stomping grounds.
So I was painting murals in LA. Been doing that. And then we were working in schools like East LA, South Central, North Hollywood. Did that for about 4 years. We worked with a nonprofit. They got a grant. We were doing like these mini residencies at high schools and middle schools and things. And so after about 4 years, I was like, this art thing is like almost working. I think I want to like go back to school and like keep pushing this, and I told myself, like I gave myself about 4 or 5 years. I was like, okay, like you're doing it, let's go. And Philly was on the list, Temple, Tyler, because I was like, oh, if I'm gonna go somewhere, I want to go to where, that's like the mural arts mecca. They have got the most amazing, like what they've created there in terms of mural arts programming and artists and connecting them with the community. There's nothing like it.
Yeah.
And I was like, I want to go there. And so I get to grad school and I meet with my advisor. I'm like, all right, I'm here. I want to paint murals. And he's like, what? Like, well, yeah, I'm in Philly. Like, he's like, actually, you're in Elkins Park, which is geographically, like, it takes a minute to get
close.
It's close-ish. And like, if you want to do that, I guess you can do that, but we can't really support you. So if you do that, you're going to just have to. And I was like, oh, okay. And I started thinking about it, and I was like, man, I'm about to bury myself in student loan debts. I've got all these amazing people here, Stanley Whitney, Frank Bramlett, Margot Margolis, like all these amazing working artists. I'm like, I need to take advantage of this opportunity to work with them. So I was like, all right, I'm gonna like put the mural stuff aside. I'm just gonna do the studio thing. And so like I did that, and that kind of steered me down the path of just really leaning into the studio work, and was just laser focused on that. And after grad school, I came back, started teaching high school in East Oakland, and we were doing murals at school, but I was doing the studio thing. And if you look at my work now, if you like look at my mural work and then you look at my studio work, it's like two different artists, right? The visual language, the technique, the subject matter. And, as I was getting older, I was like, wait, these two, like, what's going on? Like,
who am I?
like, who am I? And I'm like, one person. And, for me, and like, I think as artists, we have to find that dance, right? And I think as I got older, I saw like the studio work, it's solitary,
Mhm.
it's meditative, it's for me.
Yeah.
And if people enjoy it, that's amazing. But it's coming through me, and it's for me.
Totally.
And then the mural work is like a meditation on community
Yeah.
and what community looks like. And so, but I found myself, I was like, wait, I need to, like, if I can't find a way to marry these two things, then I need to like have a different persona in a way.
Yeah.
And so around that time, this was about 2015, I was like studying like sort of Eastern traditions and Buddhism. And there's
Mhm.
like in those traditions, there's a couple of kind of entities. There's the Mara, that is like sort of like a demonic figure that kind of tempts the Buddha and tries to steer the Buddha off of the path of enlightenment,
Mhm.
right? And it's like, with just sort of just temptations
Yeah.
and distractions. And the story I think we all have that Mara in us.
Always.
Like, and and I think as artists too, like for me, that Mara was like that whisper in my ear, that doubt, like, you're not good enough.
Mhm.
You're an imposter.
Mhm.
You don't belong here. And we all have that. And that voice can be paralyzing.
Yeah.
And at that time, that voice was really loud. I was like, and so I was doing a lot of work around that. And, the story is that the Buddha invites the Mara to come sit at the table with him and break bread.
Mhm.
And rather than treating the Mara as an adversary that you're just like, stop, like, or
Or even
like,
ignoring.
ignore, right? Bury it, which feeds it, gives it
Mhm.
power. It's like, no, I see you. All right, come. Thank you. I hear you.
Mhm.
Like, I acknowledge you as part of me, and like, I know that in some ways maybe you're trying to protect me sometimes, but I'm good.
Yeah.
And it kind of diminishes that power. And for me, what it did was it turned down the volume of that doubt. It's still there. We all have
It'll
it.
always be there.
And I think, especially for young artists, to know it's like this is something that you just have to work through. We all have it. We've been doing this for a really long time,
Mhm.
and it's still there, right? Similarly, like along those same lines, there's the hungry ghost, who is like this being that's sort of been condemned to walk the earth, always like with an empty stomach,
Mhm.
and always needing like to feed that. And it's kind of like a similar kind of temptation thing. And as I was working through those, I was like, oh, okay. And the hungry ghost just sounded cooler than the Mara. So I was like, all right, let's go with the hungry ghost. And was able to kind of like let that be my identity when I'm working in the
Yeah.
public.
Yeah.
And it kind of gave me permission almost to lean into it more.
Yeah.
And to like really embrace it. And again, this is right around the time like when Antonio died, and like
Mhm.
these things, and me trying to like figure out like how I want to be in the world.
Yeah.
And so that's where the hungry ghost came from.
I love it. I love it, man. No, I mean, because it's really a journey of not suppressing, but like really mastering ego. And I think my mentor, Abba Yehuda, he was the first episode.
Yeah.
He was one of the first people that really spoke to me and was just like, okay, people are going to tell you to, turn down your ego, suppress your. He's like, no, you have to lean into it. You have to identify it so you know when to kind of turn it on. It's like not running away from fear or anger, but knowing when to use it as a tool at the right setting.
We all have like a lion inside of us,
Yep.
but knowing
knowing
how.
when to evoke the
Yeah.
line and knowing,
Yeah.
like, which is a lifelong journey.
Oh, absolutely.
So I
Yeah.
really feel like, The Hungry Ghost, I love the title.
Mm.
My childish mind,
Mhm.
I was like, maybe he's a Pac-Man fanatic. But I guess,
love that.
Pac-Man or the ghost representation
so wait, let
is
me
kind
show
of
you.
like,
So like the Hungry Ghost. So let me
there
see
it
if you can see
is.
that. There's the Hungry Ghost. It's kind of like it's like has a little Pac-Man in it,
Man,
but it
it's
has
new age.
But it's like also has like some kind of cave painting, hieroglyph,
I like that.
kind of
Love that.
alien, squid,
Mhm.
ghost. So it kind of has a little bit. I'm gonna leave that one for you.
Yeah, I was gonna ask. I'm a
Yeah.
sticker fiend.
Yeah,
All right.
yeah. So, but yeah, and also like if you just break it down, like hungry as artists, you have to stay hungry.
Always.
And you have to like keep growing and evolving and learning. And I feel like, I mean, I'm 49, getting up there a little bit, especially in this world. I'm like looking around and I'm like, wait, we're starting to become the elders
Isn't it crazy?
in the community, and but keep growing. And I feel like I'm just getting warmed up.
Yeah. Man, I was up in Vallejo and saw a 65, I had to ask him his age, but he was a 65-year-old muralist up on the top of this grocery store. He was just doing lettering.
Yeah.
I was like, man, great job. How old are you? He was like, 64, 65. I was like, yes.
That's the goal.
Excellent.
That's the
Thank
goal.
you. Inspiration.
You got to take care of yourself, though.
You have to. And that's, man, in this public art, it's so many aspects of it. We were talking about even with the like trusting in your community, taking care of yourself is another part of, just the longevity of anything. I mean, you can't, if you're not healthy, you can't do anything.
Right.
But I mean, like in this art world, because my first goal, I wanted to be a professional soccer player, but then I realized I can have a longer career as an artist. And when I saw it, most artists didn't really get good or renowned until their 40s.
Mm-hmm.
And as a young 20, I was like, okay, cool. That gives me 20 years to kind of, and now in my 40s, I'm kind of like, all right, I'm seasoned, but now I still got some time to like really hone in on what I'm good at. If I don't,
Absolutely.
Portraits might not be, I can really just hire somebody to do that aspect of it while I accent this aspect of
Absolutely.
it.
And you had like, we're lucky to still be doing it like that.
That part.
We're fortunate to still be going.
Yeah.
And, it's that part of just, okay. But
is it luck? What would you tell, young artists? What has gotten David Burks to still be painting at nearly 50 years of age? What is it? Stars aligned? Hard work?
Stubbornness. I think, it's those things. But, going back to that idea of like that first big mural you got, where you get it and you do it, and you're like, yes. And, or like, I remember when one of my paintings got collected by a museum, and I was like, oh my goodness.
Here we go, Mom.
I'm like, it's a wrap. Like I'm like, wait, but where's the champagne and all this? And like, wait, what? And so like that. And then it's like, oh, you just have to show up to work. This is just, okay, you did this thing, and now you have to keep showing up. Keep showing up. Keep
good or
yourself,
bad,
no matter what. And you're talking to Zoe. I was listening to your conversation, and she was talking about the art clash where she wasn't even a go, and then that morning she called Langston and was like, "Can I pop it?" And then she wins and she sells her piece. You have to show up.
You have to show up, number one.
And for me, like when I'm working in the studio, I know that as long as I get there, something's good's gonna happen. The painting doesn't have to be great, but once I start pushing the paint around and doing the thing, something positive is gonna happen.
Yeah.
And you have to show up, even when you don't feel like it, even when and you have to keep showing up.
Yeah.
And also, I think being an artist is a series of like these leaps. You talk about like a leap of faith, and it's not just one.
No.
It is like, for me, probably the first one was like going to grad school. And then The second one was like after teaching for like 8 years, deciding to try and be an artist full time. You take that leap, and then you land and you look around, you're like, okay, I'm still here. I'm okay. And this, but it's a series of those leaps and those trustings. But the more you do it, the more you trust that you're going to be able to land and get your bearings.
And
so
people don't really see, they see the end and they see, what they might take as success, but they don't hear all of the behind the scenes that go. A lot of people won't know that you taught for 8 years, 8+ years.
Yeah.
I was in Philly, I taught for probably about 8 to 10 years myself, to where like people are like, oh, but you just do wall. I'm like, no, you have to know so much of the nuance in and outs of not just painting or mural painting, but just like what community thinks, what little people think, what is trendy, what is your style versus
and also seasons where maybe you're not painting as much as you think as you'd like to be.
Right.
And it doesn't mean you're any less of an artist.
Right.
But sometimes life just happens. And so when life happens, one of the first things to go is the art piece where you're painting, because life's like,
such a luxury.
It's right. And so, but letting that happen, and it doesn't mean you're not an artist.
Right.
It just means like, okay, this is a season.
Yeah.
And then there's going to be, I have to keep looking ahead to that other season that's coming.
Yeah.
The other thing is like dealing with no, and the amount of people who are going to just say no to you. Like, I've lost track, even just this year, of the number of no's, the number of people saying no. And like, what do you do with that, right?
It hurts, but you got to get used to it.
Okay. So,
and that's where I think most people don't realize, like 1 or 2 no's and people are tarnished and,
I was at Tyler my first year. I got to sit in on the selection process for the grad students coming in the next year.
Nice.
And I was running, and this was back when you had like the slide projectors. And so my job, I was on the slide projector. So everyone has their carousel, you pop it on, and I'm just sitting there, and I'm like, boom, boom,
got it,
boom, boom. And if it was literally like this fast, and if I slowed down, one of the professors would be like, faster. And I'm watching all these artists' work just flash before my eyes. Boom,
digesting
boom,
it
boom.
at that speed.
And, and then I'm watching also like all these other factors. Like maybe you're in the beginning of the morning when everybody's fresh. Maybe you're an abstract painter and they've just chosen an abstract painter, so they can't really see your work. Maybe you're at the end of the day and everyone's fried and they can't see anything.
Yeah.
You have no control over that.
Nope.
And it was so eye-opening for me to realize that you think these processes, like, that they're very considered and everyone, no. Mm-mm. There are all these things that you can't control.
Yeah.
And so what I realized in that moment was it's all the more reason to just apply and keep trying. And like, if it's a no, it's
don't take it personal.
That's it. And it's not even about you.
It took me so many years, and I hear younger artists and I just get that smirk on my face. And I'm like, there. It's really so not. It's about this community and what the people on this panel really thought was like that doesn't mean you're any less of a great person, artist. This is just what they chose.
Or maybe your proposal had a lot of blue in it, and someone on that panel's like, nah, I'm not into blue.
At least not that day.
Not that day. And so
when you go shopping in a store for an outfit, it's the same way. You might have thought you were going in for blue jeans and come out with khakis.
Yeah.
That's what they did today.
So I have a rule for myself. When I apply for something and I get a no, I give myself 24 hours.
Uh-huh.
You can be upset. You can do whatever. You can however you want to go through that process, you get 24 hours. But after that, on to the next. It's over.
Yeah.
And also celebrate the artists who are, so if you apply for a project and you don't get it, it's like, it's okay if it stings because that means you care.
Yeah.
If it didn't hurt, it's like, whatever.
What are you doing it for? Yeah.
but then celebrate them.
Yeah.
Clap for them, give them a standing ovation, because
You will be them one day.
you will.
Hopefully.
But also, like, if you are there one day, if like
You want people to clap
you
for
want
you.
people to have your back.
Yeah.
And like that part where like we're in this community, and like you said, like when we apply to call some calls, like it's all familiar faces. You've got Sorrel Tsui, you got ABG, you've got Twin Walls Mural Company.
Yep,
You
it's the
have
same folks.
You know,
You
all
got Desmundo, you got,
yeah.
you know, CRP, you know, like it's the same.
It's and it's like, oh, hey, what's up? Oh, you know, and so we're in community.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, and that's a beautiful thing. And sometimes you're gonna get it, sometimes you're not. But it's just like you just gotta keep going.
You got to keep going, and your time, you know, like it sounds so cliche, you know, your time will come. But Barrett Rafferty, he's on our board of directors. We're about to go see him in Kenya, work on a solar project with him. But he gave me some of the best advice that I keep with me to this day. And he gave it to me right as I was starting BAMP. He was like, listen, you have to hear no at least 100 times before you hear your first yes. And that's, you know, like we were talking about, you know, in regards to making $1 million or something of that nature.
Yeah.
And he was like, you're going to have to hear 100 no's or 99 no's before you hear that one yes. He's like, are you strong enough to hear that 99 no's before you hear that one yes?
Yeah.
He was being genuine. He was like, most people aren't.
Or
That's why
stubborn enough.
Or stubborn enough. Or
Yeah.
disillusioned enough.
Yeah,
I was
just
listening
like
to a
crazy,
podcast
like,
with Busta Rhymes. He was like, you almost have to be disillusioned to believe in yourself so much. And I was like, you know, I wrestled with it and I was like, okay, I might have been a little disillusioned. Like, yeah. I was talking to Sorrel before I even started BAMP. I was like, Sorrel, and I didn't know Sorrel was, in hindsight, I feel like such an asshole because I didn't know he was a muralist. I knew he was an artist and owned a gallery. I knew him as a gallery owner.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, man, I'm going to start this mural company. I'm going to do murals. And he's just kind of like looking at me. He's like, yeah, that sounds cool. And I was just like,
good luck with that.
Good luck with that, you know?
Yeah.
So we joke about it now and everything.
Yeah.
But he saw the delusion and the belief. And he was like, you know what? Dre is still here.
Still here.
Still disillusioned.
Still
No,
doing it. No, it's good. It's good.
But I mean, it's that mix of that balance of, you know, reality and knowing what it is, but then also not getting deterred by the no's.
Mm-hmm.
Even if people are like, you're not a great artist, your work will never go up on a wall. You know, like if you believe it will, and a part of the belief is going and still honing your craft, making the connections, working, you know, because some of my first projects, I wanted to make sure were not commissioned, but in the hood, right here in West Oakland with, you know, community, you know, with people that just do this. And it was just like, this is how I want to start. I don't want to, you know, be known for a commission. I want to know the community that I'm in. I want them to know me.
Right. And and you and Rachel were talking about this, I think, when you guys went out to Standing Rock. It's this idea of not showing up with like a plan or a preconceived idea of what you're going to do. Give yourself time to engage and listen, and then ask questions, conversations in the community that you're in. It could be Standing Rock, it could be abroad, but it could be
right here.
Right here.
Yeah.
Right around the corner. And even within Oakland, every neighborhood has its own
story, demographic,
politics, people. That every neighborhood has its own unofficial mayor.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And that has stories. And like, I think, you know, like our processes are similar in the sense that like our work comes through that process of conversation.
It helps. And I mean, and it makes it more digestible for me. And I feel like for the community, but like having that conversation, and then even for me, that diving board, like, I got a degree as an illustrator. So, you know, I want to feel that I can pretty much, if I can see it, I can illustrate it. Might not be the best, but you'll know what it is.
Sure.
So I feel like, you know, with, you know, illustrating, oh shit, I lost my train of thought here.
We're talking about the process, the conversation that leads.
Yes, I feel like with illustrating, sorry,
Yeah.
at least you have a diving board. When you have that conversation with community,
Yeah.
at least you have a diving board. At least
Yeah.
they're going to be like, we want to see Black Panthers, or we want to
Right.
see that. You might have been thinking something totally different to put on that
Sure.
wall, but if you hear community and now you can be like, oh, you know what? I could
Yeah.
put that together with that.
Yeah.
All right, I'll be back in a week.
Sure.
It helps with like having to come up with the design and the story,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
as artists, sometimes I go to a wall with a concept
Sure.
and the input will
Mhm.
give it the bells and whistles and the
Sure,
details
sure,
that just really kind of like
Yeah.
sells it and pushes it home.
Absolutely.
So I feel like it's having that balance, or even just being open to, especially when it's public art. If it's not in your neighborhood, you don't have to look at it every day. Get,
Well, I think that that's an interesting thing. Something I reflect on a lot is like sometimes, and this is just a different approach. You have artists who have their brand and their
Yeah.
style, and they'll roll up into a community and they'll put that stamp up and they'll leave and maybe never come back to that community. But the people that live there and work there and see it every day, that's part of their visual landscape.
Yeah.
And I think that's part, and Sorrell and I have had this conversation because
Mhm.
he's like, he looks at my studio work, he's like, where is this out in the world? And I'm like, I haven't reconciled that yet. Like, just taking this and just like,
Blah.
boom, and
Yeah.
walk away. And I think it's probably because how I learned the craft was through this process of community, through conversation, through working with young people, and that engagement and that type of it's part of my DNA.
Yeah, yeah.
And so and he's like, well, just let me know when you're ready. I'm like, okay. So I think it's a very interesting conversation to
Yeah.
have. And
It's so, me and Sorrell have had that same conversation. It started even when we did the Whole Foods mural. He's like, I'm not seeing Natty Rebel
yes.
in Bamp. I'm like, you might not.
Yeah.
Natty Rebel is what I love to do, and it doesn't always, depending on what neighborhood, translate into the right piece. Or even as when we did the Whole Foods piece, I was like, I already know, because now that I'm getting older, companies and corporations are gonna want to see it in bright light. So Natty Rebel and Whole Foods just doesn't have that ring that they're looking for.
And some artists can do it.
Some artists can do
it. That is amazing.
And that's why I loved
Yeah.
Math was going out and painting what he wanted to paint.
Yes.
His character,
Mhm.
his story
Yeah.
wasn't going to alter. If you wanted to
Mhm.
hire him for that, great.
Yeah.
But this is what he wanted to paint.
Yeah.
And there's artists like him and Dead Eyes and Ross Terms and Gats.
Yeah.
To where when you see one of their pieces,
You
they don't have to
No.
sign it.
No.
And I've always admired that, to where I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, I want a branded, when people see it, it's
Sure.
like, oh, that's Natty Rebel.
Yeah.
But then there was a part of me that was also like, you know what? I want to paint different subject matters. What I paint today, I might not feel like painting tomorrow.
And I feel like we're
There's
visual
room for all of it.
There's room for all of it, but I think for me, I see my role as a visual translator for the community.
Yeah, totally.
And
I love that term.
Taking a step back and being like, all right, I'm gonna let this run through. I'm gonna facilitate it. I'm gonna put and I like the behind the scenes part. I think that's where the ghost part of the Hungry Ghost is.
Got
I
it.
like to be behind the scenes. And just I want every artist that comes and works on a wall with me to feel taken care of. I want them to I want them to feel supported. I want them to feel, and I love that part of the behind the scenes and the community and having those conversations and just talking to the neighborhood mayor or talk, and all those things. That's the good stuff.
Man, it's
good
the great stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, man. So let's see. We've talked about Philly. We've given our shout outs. Oh, do you have a favorite piece that you have worked on? I'm trying to think. Oh, man, you guys got, in terms of Hungry Ghost.
I think for us, for me, the Love Letter series that's the passion project. You know, we do these other things, but that one is like
They're so good, man.
man, that was an idea that I had like probably back in like 2010.
Yeah.
And I kept talking myself out of it. I was like, oh no, you're not the one to do this. Someone else is going to do this. And some people are doing it, but not the way I was seeing it. And so finally in 2018, Desimundo was organizing, I think it was like the third Bay Area Mural Festival. And I applied, but it was too late.
I was right there with you.
And like I was like, oh, sorry, I'm just sending this to you anyway. And then I get a call. I think Sarah calls me and she's like, it was like, I don't know, 10 days before the festival. Like, someone dropped out. Do you want to jump in? I was like, sure. It's like, we don't have a wall for you yet, but
we'll
figure it out. And I was like, okay, I've had this idea for eight years at this point, and I've been coming up with excuses not to do it. I was like, I have to do this now.
Yeah.
And I had like a list of the artists and things, so I'm making calls. I tracked down James Gales.
James is in there.
And Tarita McKell and Agana. And then Samuel Getachew. He was a junior at Oakland Tech, and he had just won the poetry, the Youth Speaks poetry.
Yeah.
And so connected with him, got them in the studio, photographed them all in like 10, like just, and did this thing. And like, you know, the Mural Festival lasts a week. That thing took me a month.
Man, I was going to say, I don't remember that one being done for the Mural Festival.
No,
they gave me a plywood. I think a luminaries applied late. So me, a luminary, we did some plywoods along the little walkway down at the bottom. But I remember that piece, man, and that red sunset background with the cityscape. So good, man. So many aspects of it. I think that's when I fell in love with some of the portraits. What's his name?
So that was the first project outside of the superheroes that I worked with Jovic. And I was like, all right, Jovic, and we had Kina Romano was on there, and like it. So that was like, I was just like, okay, let's see how this lands.
Yeah.
But that was one of those ones too where I was like, did anybody see this? Right? But it was like, okay.
You never know who's watching. So I got a buddy who lives down in Jack London. His back window faces that mural. Every time I go and see, he's like, yeah, that mural is awesome. And I'm just like, you get to see this every day? Like, I'm sitting there just looking at it for like 10, because I usually drive by it. I haven't really gotten out because it's right by the highway.
But in passing, you're like,
But from his apartment, I just stare and study. And I'm like, and he's up on, I think, maybe the 6th or 7th floor.
Yeah.
So everybody from that angle in that apartment building looks, and there's a few high rises in that area. So so many people have seen that piece, man.
And so like that, and so I did that one. I was like, okay, that felt all right. And then pandemic hits. Everything shuts down. And we're all isolated, but galleries close, music venues, theaters. And I'm like, oh.
Nothing left to do but paint murals.
But where are all of the voices and the expression it's quiet. Driving down, I remember driving down 880, just no one in front, behind.
Right, there was no traffic. I was so eerie, but I was like, wow, I can get to my mural.
It was amazing.
I was getting to San Francisco in like 12 minutes. No traffic on the bridge.
It was incredible.
I was almost mad when traffic started coming back, when I was just like, good. Civilization's coming back to.
Life is coming back. But that was when I was like, okay, I'm going to double down on this. And so we started inviting artists into the studio.
Kev Choice.
We had Kev Choice. We've had like all these other artists that we haven't even painted yet. We had Boots Riley come through. We had Ayodele and Zinga. And we just started interviewing them, photographing them. And we're like, okay, we're going to start and part of it was like photographs for the murals,
Yeah.
but then also just having artists from different disciplines talk about how Oakland has influenced them, and
You got to document it. Yeah.
start like connecting these dots, because we're all bouncing off of each other and
Yeah.
we're all having this conversation through our different forms of expression.
Yeah.
And so in 2021, we had Hung Lu come to the studio. She was a professor at Mills College, painter, who had a huge impact on so many artists in the area. And we were planning on this piece that's in Temescal on Shattuck and 52nd. And that was when we had Kev Choice come through, and we had Twin Walls, Elaine Chu and Marina Perez Wong. And then we were talking to Michael Morgan. Okay. So we have Hung Lu come through. And then we're talking to Michael Morgan. And that summer, he passes away. Shortly thereafter, Hung Lu passes away. She had cancer. No, we didn't know. And it changed. We were like, this project was happening, and it changed kind of the
meaning of
the meaning and everything. And because part one of the core tenets of the Love Letter Project is to celebrate artists while they're still alive.
Yeah.
Crucial.
Now it becomes a tribute piece.
And then it turns into a tribute piece. But what it also was a reminder for us is like, there's like this sense of urgency, like we have to keep doing this now. Yeah. And I think I'm curious your perspective on this. Like, I think in street art, in the mural world too, there's this habit of when someone passes away, like the next week, there's like 10 murals of this musician or this athlete, and like it's a thing, and there's like it's coming from a really beautiful place and a place of mourning, and I think that's important. But I also am like, wait, we need to celebrate people now while they're with us, so they can feel that love.
It's true.
And I don't think doesn't diminish that. I just think I look around and I notice it, and I'm like, wait, there's something else to this too.
Yeah, yeah.
And so it's so that's one of, like, for us, the like kind of the motivation to do this work, and to continue this series. So we've got the seeds planted so we got the seeds planted for. We didn't do this one this year, but we've got one working on 2025.
I will come and volunteer, bro.
Please come.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
You gotta let me know when that's going down, because they're so. I mean, now hearing the story behind it is so powerful. And yes, just to wrap it up, like, I think honoring people while they're living is so important, because we all just want to feel seen.
Right.
It's so crucial. I never liked doing, even while I was in Philadelphia, I never liked doing rest in peace murals.
Yeah.
It was just like a year, and they would always go up, somebody passed away.
Yeah.
But then as I've gotten older, I understand the importance of them.
Yes.
And how that city or that community becomes an ofrenda for that person. And you just start to see murals and their name goes up. And it almost, and I say ofrenda just because it's like, you put people's photos up on ofrendas because you don't want them to, as they're crossing into the next life, you don't want them to get forgotten.
Yes.
So, I feel like they need that as well too, when they're transitioning to where it's like, you didn't forget about me. Right. I'm not just afterthought. It's like,
no, it's
wherever they are, they can feel that energy.
It's
like,
powerful.
Yeah,
it's powerful. We did the Zumbi tribute piece on High Street. Steve Gaines.
Another one. You were
and
touching that up recently.
Yeah, I was just touching it up, and he was also like, we were like, oh, he was on the love letter list. And we're like, oh,
how do we? Shift?
So like.
He deserves his own mural now. And that mural, oh man, the work and his sweater, so many great pieces to that mural. And
there's a healing. There's part I understand, like healing, mourning, celebrating, all of it.
Oh,
It's
man.
critical.
You've been a part of some, I knew, but I didn't know how impactful, and this is the work that we do, right? We're not looking for our name in bright lights
No.
when we do our community-based work.
It's not about that.
We want the people to feel that story that's being told in that mural.
Yes.
And if they see our name, great.
Yes.
But it's not even about it. It's about celebrating those moments. And that zooming piece is so, when I saw it, I was just like, yes. Like when I saw you guys working on it, I was just like, needed. The Hyro piece. Bananas.
Oh, those guys, man.
Bananas.
Those guys are amazing.
They're amazing. I felt the inspiration of their music, their, humanity in that piece. I mean, just some of the digital connected. I was like, the things that, as an artist, sometimes you try and figure out how to cut corners or not put so many hairs into a animal or, like, you guys put it all
full
in
blast
that one.
on that one.
You guys did not spare. I mean, the more I just go into it, it's a little bit of like detail in every turn of that mural. And I hope you guys got paid $1 million for that thing.
We got paid $0.
I'm leaving. What do you mean? Hold on. That's why that piece is so awesome.
Here's the thing.
That's why that piece is so awesome.
We'll end on this. Like, I know.
What?
Here's the thing. As artists, you're going to get paid for some things, and you're going to have moments where things are going well, and then moments where it's just quiet.
You're
it's
just looking
crickets.
for a wall to paint.
And so this was one of those downturns, and we were like, okay. And I knew that the 30-year anniversary of 93 Till was coming up, and they were doing the tour, and I've been talking to them. I was like, hey, you guys want to do something? They're like, yeah. They were all over it. It's like, so came to the studio, did the thing, and we're like, we need a wall. And we're looking around, and we're trying to figure. We didn't have a wall, and no one wanted it. No one even wanted to give us money for materials.
It's tough, man.
So what we did was
art, hip
that
hop,
is on my
and 4 black men's faces up on a wall. That is
our studio, my studio building. So I went to that's where our studio is. That's my studio, and then Poncho and Jovic are right next door. That's our headquarters.
I just drove by that mural.
That's our spot. And I went to the landlords and we're like, hey, because we were like, well, what do we have? What can we barter? And it's like, well, maybe we can just get some studio space.
Childhood.
So can you give us a little relief on studio and we'll just paint this mural? And they were cool with it.
Oh, man.
And what it meant, and this is like, because we weren't getting paid, we had creative freedom to just let it rip. And that's like those projects where you have that
control
and
creative freedom.
I'm gonna keep going for a minute. I know
Rip, man.
Because you do these calls for artists, right?
Yeah.
And especially through cities, and you get and it's like, well, we want you to represent everyone in the community. We want you to touch on all of these cultural
all the indigenous
issues.
plants.
Plus, while you're at it, we want you to solve the housing crisis.
All of that.
We want you to do all this. And then you're like, okay, where's the art? And where is the mystery? And I have this philosophy that if every mural does not have to be about everyone. Because it's about everyone and everything. It's not about anything.
Yes.
And it's okay for a mural to be about this story
subject matter.
Or this subject matter. And it's okay for a mural to have some funk and some jazz and some improvisation. But I find that we're in this moment now where a lot of the public projects and
things. It's gotta be PC. It's gotta be diverse.
It sucks the art out of it. And at the end, you can still do something interesting, but it's you're set.
It's got to be so cookie cutter and cross off it's got to check all the boxes.
And there's no room for improvisation.
That it can't be improv. We use a projector because once we've agreed upon something with a client,
They're checking the boxes.
they're checking the boxes. And if we add one extra flower that doesn't belong or one
So-
extra person that isn't the right color, it's
So-
like, no, that's, I'm like,
So those projects, like the Souls piece, where we have some room to wiggle, we can just let
oh,
it all out.
bruh, you guys
And
did.
so just embrace it.
Yeah.
And that was
I had to hit the brakes. There's a few murals that you've done where I've hit the brakes on where I'm like, oh, this is where it is. I've seen them online,
Yeah,
and I'm
yeah.
like, I'm such a mural fanatic.
and it's
bruh.
fun when you stumble across one that you haven't seen in
I'm
person.
such a
You're like,
fan.
"Oh,
Yes. Like
yes."
I love this to my core because
Yeah.
it's not even about what just being able to see it out in the world. I'm like, should I take a picture? Should I tag him in? Okay, am I getting
Yeah.
too? I'm being cheesy right now, but
No, it's,
I'm fanning.
I do
right
the same
now.
thing. And that visual conversation that we've been having, we've never sat down like this,
Yeah,
but we've been having a visual conversation for the last 10 years.
yeah,
And that's how it is with all the artists. And it's like every day you get in your car, you see something new,
hmm
a new piece, 24/7,
yeah,
day and night,
yeah.
in this city, in Oakland.
It's a great place to
This
be
is
an
the
art watcher.
greatest place to be an artist and an art watcher. And I'm honored
Yeah,
to
man.
share this time and this space and these walls and these streets with you.
Man, it is my pleasure. It is absolutely my pleasure.
Give me the paint, give me the chalk, give me the urban artist talk. Give me the paint, give me the chalk, give me the urban artist talk.